Alright, today we're working on the Miata. That needs some things, but we'll get to it. So, we have built a bash bar, which you'll see more of later, and these lights need to be wired. So in the midst of doing that, things spiraled out of control. Center console had to go, so this fire extinguisher could be there. Good enough. And I got this all kind of taken apart because I was going to drill this or make a new panel and put that switch, a horn button, because long story short, I couldn't make that thing work. I was going to do all that, and then I started thinking that I really hated this unfinished look. So, going to cover how I make something to go over there. All right, so first things first, we're going to do a cardboard aided design. So I'm going to make something that is going to be about this shape and fold down and go on to the sides and anchor in there like the factory one did. And on the back, it's going to kind of taper back down and go to there so we can still reach the fire extinguisher, not be in the way of that. And there's going to be room for switches along it. Probably like horn button and everything else can go wherever. And I'm going to do this to get close. I'm going to trace the original center console. And once I do that, I know I'm going to have to make it a little narrower because we're losing a little bit of thickness of that. But it gives me a starting point and I can trim off from there. And I can also kind of have that cut out so as I'm working with the template, the shifter doesn't get in the way. Nice little tip here. I found this here cutter thingy that some old lady used for some kind of crafts at a estate sale or something. And so I've got a nice straight line there from where the box of this beverage product creased, and now I've cut a nice straight line. That comes in real good handy for certain things. In my case, this nice straight line that I've made with this is going to be the start right there. So we're working off a nice straight piece, and my template's going to be really precise. We've got the front nice and flushed up with some custom tape, and we're going to use a marker that came with the Miata. It's marked many things on it that have been built so far. It's tradition. As I make this, I know that I'm going to have to cut it later. I know that there's also the handbrake right here, so this might have to recess in from there. So what I'm going to do, I got my line started pretty well, and what I'll probably do is with a straight edge finish that up, and then we can cut it from there, since we're just using a nice free piece of cardboard. And what we're going to do here is, it was a little hard to trace that because the piece started tapering off, so we're going to aim a little wide with a nice piece of straight edge here, whatever you want to call it, and we can trim it from there. So I've got the shifter hole, and of course this is the bottom of the piece, and we're going to be able to go from there. I'm going to try to make that a little more straight, actually, because of the design I want to use. Because you'll see later, I'm going to fold it all together. So I'm going to just make that wider for now and make it narrower later if I have to, which most likely will. It's easier to take more material off than to put it back on. Now we have a start to this. So like I said, handbrake, that's gonna have to be trimmed around. Width of the thing, definitely gonna have to work with that. So let's try to run through the gears here and see if we have any other interference we have to worry about. Looks like everything clears. This is probably gonna have to be a little more to this side to make sure we don't hit when we put the little, there's like a factory shift piece I'm going to integrate into there. So as long as I hug that side, I don't think there's going to be a problem. Everything else is good to go. We have the shifter, or the handbrake being a problem here, and we don't want that to be a problem. We also know that we want to hug this, or well, hug that side for the shifter interference. So let's run through one more time here. What we're probably going to do, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm aiming for this little thing here, so I'm going to be inside of that just a little bit. So I'm going to be aiming for, and you'll see the full extent of what I'm going for later. And because of how I'm going to build this, I need to make this a straight line for this to work. So we're going to see a little bit of transmission tunnel in the end, but what we're going to do here is I'm going to make a mark inward a little bit so that we don't have an issue with the shifter. I'm going to mark that in. I'm going to kind of guess. I'm going to draw a straight line, and in fact, I'm going to probably shave a little off there too, get some of that done. So we're going to draw a straight line, and we're going to work that down and see if we can make enough clearance for the handbrake with a straight line. All right, very simple part of the process. I have my two lines here that I just made. I'm going to go to the tips of those with this here straight edge. Make the straightest line we can. Try to make it really true and consistent. And we're going to chip our way down until it's the right width. First, try to have enough clearance so we have one line there. I'm going to line up with the very tip of this edge, and I'm going to give that a whirl. Lots of trial and error in this process. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. So I've kind of realized that as I go, these pieces on the side that I'm going to screw to aren't completely, well, they're not really angled. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, or not, to make that work. Cross that bridge in a minute, no reason to stress out. I think it'll be fine. There's a little flex there. It's custom. So all the gears work. Handbrake, I'm going to simulate this where it goes with my other hand, and you can still reach the handbrake really easily. Now this, I'm going to try to use this original hole to hold the back of it, try to keep the look a little cleaner and avoid drilling more holes in the car. So I'm going to draw a line just before it, because my plan is to have a tab a little behind it. So obviously we have stuff in our way, so we're going to improvise and try to line that up square. And I'm pretty much just going to have to eyeball where the cut is, and gonna try to make this line square with that line. Well, as with any time I'm doing something like this, I'm running into a situation where I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but I was going to get some kind of square or use the table or something. Luckily, this cutter thingy lines up right about where I want that to be. So I'm going to hold that firm up there, and I'm going to very carefully cut that with a razor down here, and voila. So it's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty close, and that's going to work pretty nicely. So don't get hung up on exactly how you do something like this, because it's all going to vary on what you have to work with and what shape you're making. And we're just doing some home fab with some Cad board, so it is what it is. Right, we got our assistant Gary here. He's not very good at holding the camera, so he's just going to sit there and be in the way. I have got something, it's just a little bit over 1.25 inches from there to there, so I've mocked up some random bits to simulate that. And from the looks of it, it might taper down just a little bit. All this stuff's not going to be super exact. I can shim it up a little. I'm going to inspect, see how I like it, and then from there, what I can do is, because these pieces are going to be pretty straight, I'm probably just going to do some measurements and cut from there. Test fit. It's just cardboard. I can go back and do more. So let's see how it turns out, huh, buddy? Alright, so what we've done is this was sitting in place, and I ended up having it a little bit of a slope back, which was pretty nice. So I measured there and there, which is 1.5 inches or 1.5 inches and 2.5 inches, and I've made a slope. The only thing I missed is the front of the panel I'm matching up to does move forward a little bit, but I've got a trick up my sleeve to tackle that. Probably can't see it very well in the video, but this is going to work. So the back of here, we're going to have another piece we're going to make, and there's going to be a tab off of that to let it be bent out so that I can make this all in one flat piece and fold it into what I need and make it awesome. So I've got everything all laid out here. I found the smallest piece of aluminum I could find to make it all work, and you'll see these little dots here. I have used a pen to poke through the hole that everything's going to go through. That kind of gives me a spot to base off of when I need to know where to drill a hole in the aluminum. So we're going to cut out this shape, and then we're going to use these templates to line out where they need to bend and fold into the 3D shape that you once saw. So we've got our rough outline cut with a combination of this really old saw and the stand-up bandsaw over there, which I don't zoom on this, so there it is. So I've drilled some holes. They're kind of close enough, and then that gives me like that pattern of the shifter. So then I've drawn straight lines, and we can get pretty damn close. So I don't own a proper die grinder, so the holes that I started, I had to use this very, very carefully to go through there. Wear gloves and safety protection like glasses and stuff, because it's sketchy, and don't do it if you're not comfortable with it. And so this piece here goes underneath. Just like that. And what we're going to do is there's going to be screws to hold this from the bottom, and voila, shift boot. Back to these holes I've punched. A good thing to do here is to use those, center up your punch and go for it. Take into account you're not going to be extremely exact, so you might have to make the hole slightly bigger or whatever in the end. As long as your fastener covers it, it's still going to look nice and clean, and it's still going to be better than what most of your friends can do. So there you go. One nice thing on these step bits is you can kind of use it as a thing to clean the hole. So over here, that is a little jagged, so you just give it a little quick little gentle little nudge, and it's more better than it was. On to where the notches go. I have marked the top and the bottom of this piece so I know where they are. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these pieces free. And just so that I'm, oh, and also super flexible duct tape is nice for that. And on the ends, we weren't quite exact, so we have done some duct tape extendos. So I'm going to use that to draw my line where I'm going to make a groove and make a cut. Now that our lines are on there, I'm going to go through all of these and try to make a nice consistent light groove in there, allowing the metal a straight place to bend and form, since I currently don't own a press brake. So we're going to make do with what we have. So, kind of tricky. I'm a little rusty, but after I did the first one, it got better. This gives the metal a place to go, and I didn't go super deep. We're going to very, very gently try it. But before that, we're going to give it a little flair. So this is a trick I saw on the internet. Naturally, it works. It's a little roll-lock pad that you can get really cheap. And you just kind of do your thing. Now I'm going to try to fold it up, see how it goes. Line it up with the table, I guess. And it doesn't really want to go, so I think I'm going to cut just a little deeper. So the solution was to set it here and hit it with a deadbolt hammer, but I have to do that side, so I might have to use a block of wood or something. When you don't have super fancy tools, you get creative. Okay, long awaited finished product. I missed a little bit on the hole back there. I'm only human. If you really, really look at the edges, it did try to crack, but you know, I didn't have a way to weld it. Gotta look at psychedelic, matching the other stuff. Good enough for a drift car.